What is the stupidest thing your child heard from their teacher? One of my children was assigned to read the novel The Grapes of Wrath in school. For those who haven't read it, it's a book about a poor family that moves west in search of a better life. There's also a small story about a turtle crossing the road. The teacher explained to the children that this turtle symbolizes the family and that they had to leave their old life behind, just like the turtle shed its shell. When the children told her that turtles don't do that, she was very embarrassed. She didn't know that because in Mario, turtles come out of their shells. Me. How do you spell the word yay? Barely. Teacher. There is no such word. You can't use it. Me. There is. Teacher. No, there is no such word. My classmates were no less surprised than I was. When I was in 4th grade, our PE teacher told us that sleeping on your stomach could lead to stomach cancer. Our 6th grade teacher said that if you sleep on your stomach, you'll get fat. My 7th grade physics teacher condescendingly told me that dry ice doesn't exist. That my daughter mispronounces her own last name, not the teacher's last name. When I was in 6th grade, I had a small argument with a classmate about how to correctly pronounce his last name. My mom worked with his parents and told me how it should be pronounced. When we were receiving our diplomas, the classmate told us that he had been mispronouncing his own last name all those years, and his parents corrected him only that morning. Teachers told my child that he couldn't read the Guinness Book of World Records. The school library had a complete collection of all the volumes of this book, but they forbade children from taking them. If anyone broke the ban, they were punished for it. At the same time, they didn't remove the collection from the library. This is weird. Do they say why they can't be read? They say something like, it's not a textbook or it's not for children. Then why do they keep the entire collection of books in the school library? Why not at least remove them from the shelves? In 9th grade, we were studying food chains and nutrients in biology. I asked the teacher a question. Me. What place do mushrooms occupy in the food chain? What vitamins and other nutrients can be obtained from mushrooms? Teacher. Mushrooms are not part of the food chain. They only feed on the remains of dead organisms. Therefore, they have no nutritional value. A teacher tried to convince me that Lenin and Stalin were the same person, that his real name was Lenin Stalin. And I'm not even from Russia. We brought this up once in an economics class. My son was assigned homework to draw his dream house. He got a D for it because the house he drew was too unrealistic. He got another D for an essay on a free topic where he wrote about dinosaurs. He was told that dinosaurs never actually existed because there's no mention of them in the Bible. When he replied that it also doesn't say anything about air conditioners, he got a D. This happened in the 90s at a public school in rural Texas. When my son was 11, his teacher said he was lying about not distinguishing colors. The son was punished for this because the teacher didn't know that a condition like colorblindness existed. Me. I'll upload my essay to the FTP server and download it later. School librarian. Where will you download it? Me. Download it from the internet. Librarian. Are you crazy? You can't just upload any nonsense to the internet. A couple of years ago, my daughter went to a preparatory school whose teachers were aware that she saw a speech therapist and still didn't speak very well. But on the very first day at school, she got a bad grade because she couldn't tell the class how she spent her summer? What the fuck? This was just the first in a long string of problems at that school. As a result, even before the beginning of November that same year, we transferred her to another school. Let me tell you about the stupid things I heard from my son's teacher. We were on a tour of the school grounds. The teacher was rattling on about various vegetables and other greens they grow. We came to some huge sunflowers. Teacher, and these are our sunflowers. Popcorn is made from them. Me, you mean they are added to popcorn? Teacher, what? Number? Popcorn is made from sunflower seeds. Me, I can assure you, popcorn is made from corn kernels. She just sighed and probably decided I was a Neanderthal nearly 2 meters tall. We got to the shrub section and she pointed to thyme and rosemary. Teacher, this is thyme and rosemary. They are used to produce chocolate. Me, what? They are only added to chocolate and it gives it a strange taste. I never understood how kids could like that. Teacher, no, they aren't just added to chocolate. Chocolate is made from them. By then I was tired of arguing with her and stayed silent until the end of the tour, pondering how she even manages to zip her pants in the morning, let alone how she managed to get a diploma and get a job at a school. When we took a test at the beginning of the school year, I got the highest score. At the end of the school year, we took the same test again, and I again got the highest score. But I wasn't allowed to go to the sweet table with the class because there was no progress in my test result. When we were reading about Winnie the Pooh, the teacher said that the word honeycomb doesn't actually exist. Winnie just made it up. This same teacher photographed stars in the night sky with a flash on her phone. My parents loved to joke about the fact that my teacher told them that I would probably have problems with reading because I skip words. Literally. But I could already read. Every day after school, I read books and did it perfectly. I was still a child, and my teacher said that the book I was reading was too difficult for my age, and that I must have just been pretending to understand it. She confiscated the book The Golden Compass, which I bought with money I saved, and forced me to choose one of her books, and she only had picture books for very young children. My kindergarten teacher said I was retarded and would never learn to read. I never went back to that kindergarten. This happened to my niece. She was being bullied at school, and the teacher said she had to put up with it, think about how the bully felt, and that he was just showing her that he liked her. And this phrase I like the most: "You are still so small. Kids will be kids. It will all pass." The kindergarten teacher where my brother went tried to prove to him that his name was Alexander, although his name was actually just Alex. There was another boy in their group whose name was Alexander, but he preferred to be called Alex. The teacher made my brother cry, trying to explain that his name was just a shortened form of Alexander. My parents had to intervene and ask the teacher to leave the child alone. Can you really argue with a child about their name? When I went to kindergarten, my mom was called in because I had done something wrong. It turned out the problem was that when I was asked to draw my family, I drew everyone as ducks. My mom, dad, brothers, and sisters, they were all ducks. The teacher insisted this wasn't normal, and my mom asked why. They said they didn't know, but it definitely wasn't normal. This really angered my mom. When I was in 5th grade, my science teacher tried to prove to me that heavier objects fall faster, and to convince me, he dropped a sheet of paper and a pencil on the floor. I told him the paper fell slower because of air resistance, and then I dropped a paperclip and a pencil on the floor. The teacher could see they hit the floor at the same time and said I threw the paperclip with force and just released the pencil. He still teaches. When I was in 6th grade, the teacher gave us an assignment to find and write down 10 poems on various topics of our choice. I chose the topic of animals. One of my poems was about ants, the second about dogs, the third about lions, and so on. When the teacher checked our work and returned it, I noticed my grade was somehow lower. I asked about the reason, and the teacher said, "You chose poems about animals, but since ants are not animals," I didn't give points for that poem. My tiny 11-year-old brain just exploded after that statement. I had to bring him a letter signed by the biology teacher confirming that ants belong to the animal kingdom in order to get the unfairly deducted points back. I can't forget what happened to me once in the senior kindergarten group. This must be one of my earliest memories. We were sitting on the carpet with the teacher. She asked us where we could meet a squirrel. I immediately raised my hand. Other kids named trees, bushes, grass, and when she asked me, I answered, "On wires," because I saw squirrels walking on wires every day. The teacher said I was wrong, fucking bitch. At such an early age, I learned that teachers aren't always right. Damn, this happened back in 1985, and I should have forgotten about this incident long ago. My daughter was on a field trip, and I was accompanying her. The teacher was talking about Indians, Native Americans, and I almost tore all the hair out of my head while listening to her. During the Ice Age, like in that famous cartoon, all the oceans froze. The Indians left Europe across the frozen ocean and migrated west. Indians lived in tents in hot weather and in teepees in cold weather. Indians didn't know how to plant crops. They only knew how to hunt animals and gather plants for food. Indians hunted elephants in Florida. Indians made arrowheads out of obsidian because it's very strong. And I haven't even remembered everything yet. Literally every sentence she uttered was fiction. When I remember this, I really regret that I was shy and didn't interrupt her and correct her. The most amazing thing is that when I looked around to see if others were listening to this nonsense, I noticed that all the other parents and teachers were listening and nodding. When my son was about 5, his kindergarten teacher decided to cure all the children in the group of their biggest fears. At the time, my son was afraid of the dark, and this teacher sat him in the middle of the room and covered him with a blanket to convince him there was nothing to be afraid of. The next year, she didn't work there anymore. I don't have kids yet, but once my teacher told me that if I didn't cut my long bangs, boys wouldn't like me and I'd be lonely for the rest of my life. I was 12 years old. I remember 2 such stories about stupid things I heard from a teacher. Honestly, I don't know which is worse. First, when we were in 3rd grade, we were studying units of measurement, and one of the students asked what was longer, a meter or a yard. The teacher pulled out 2 large rulers, each a yard long, and said that one was a meter and the other a yard. He put both rulers next to each other and told the class that a meter and a yard are the same length. Second, my middle school teacher told the class that the lack of contact with germs in developed countries has weakened our immune system and led to various autoimmune diseases, such as AIDS. She also said that people in third world countries, for example, African countries, have stronger immune systems, and therefore they don't have diseases like AIDS. Writing a bit off topic. When I went to kindergarten, the teacher told my parents that I would never become an artist. This embarrassed my parents, as it was unlikely they were wondering whether I could become an artist. After all, it wasn't important at all, and I didn't want to be one myself. I just liked to draw when I was bored. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher told me that dinosaur bones were buried in the ground by the devil to confuse us and divert people's eyes from the existence of God. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new super interesting discussions. Well, for now, we suggest watching our other videos.